welcome to the reveal. It's been 2 years almost since we started this. It is now April. It's now April of 2020, and we started this at the very end of July 2018.
Yeah.
It's been a very long process, but one by one, you guys were executed, and now we have 3 participants left: Bender, Chirpy, and Matthew. One of them is the winner. One of them is the runner-up. And one of them is the mole.
I'm
Now-
the mole.
Now, before we reveal who is what, I want to ask you guys, and I'll start with, and we'll go in execution order. So, Shinity, who do you
I
think...
executed first.
I mean, Illumina was executed first, but
Oh,
Illumina's just
yeah,
kind of
right.
gone, so...
Oof, yeah.
So, Shinity, who do you think is the mole, and who do you think is going to win?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I could imagine. Alright, I'm gonna say Matthew is the mole, and I say Bender wins.
Okay. Wizrope, your turn. Who do you think wins, and who do you think is the mole?
Well, obviously I'm gonna win. I'm going with Shitty. Honestly, I say Matthew's bad. And
Okay.
Bender is good.
Okay. MKZ, your turn.
Bender is the mole, and I think Kevin's gonna win.
Fair enough. Mike.
The real winners are the friends we made along the way.
Okay. I'd say Bender's probably gonna win, and what's your name? Sorry, Sixth Son.
Matthew or Chirpy?
Matthew.
Matthew.
Yeah, sorry, Matthew.
Okay. And April.
Okay. I hope Matthew's the mole because it would be hilarious. I'm thinking Chirpy is the mole and Matthew wins.
Okay then. Here's how this is going to work. One by one in alphabetical order, I'll open your guys' doors and call you over here. I want you to stand in front of me. I will insert your name into the hopper.
Okay.
If the screens all around us turn green, you are the winner. If they turn red, you are the mole's final victim. And if they turn
boy.
blue, you are the mole.
Oh boy.
Bender, you're up first.
Alright, cool.
Are you ready?
So people are gonna find out if they're the mole.
So,
Bender's the runner-up, right?
stand behind the desk.
Like here?
Yeah. Bender, I will now insert your skull into the hopper.
Behold! Cord! Yeah!
Congratulations, Bender fan. You are the winner of the mole, Minecraft Marauder.
Congratulations!
Good job.
Did anyone predict this?
No.
So Matthew's the mole
I don't think anyone predicted this while we were
and just did terrible at his job.
doing this. Now, Chirpy and Matthew, one of you is the runner-up and one of you is the mole.
And you both know.
Will the real mole reveal themselves now? Matthew, you are the mole.
Okay.
I am so happy that it turned out this way. This is great.
You've deceived everyone this entire time.
No, I haven't. They all guessed me.
And Chirpy, so I'm sorry, Chirpy, but you did not figure out who the mole was. You are the mole's final victim.
Oh, very. Oh, never mind. Oh, there we go.
So,
Victory.
with that, we have our final order.
What happened to the joke reveal?
There is no joke reveal anymore.
What? You can't just cancel the joke reveal.
Yes, you can.
The joke reveal in the end is how long this is going to be long, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The joke reveal is the friends we made along the way.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna be honest. When we first started, I never thought that Bender would win.
There we
I'm
go.
gonna be
I
honest.
did. I'll be honest, I didn't think I was gonna win either.
Was he actually rolling dice the entire time?
I decided that it would be really funny if Bender won.
I am like 90% certain I didn't roll dice for the last one.
Yeah, Bender did not roll dice for the last one. Bender actually went straight for Matthew, and he got it right. In the final quiz, Bender
Yeah.
got 11 out of 20 questions correct.
11? That's like nothing.
Unfortunately, Chirpy got 2 out of 10
What?
because Chirpy thought
Chirpy.
that Bender was the mole. I'm sorry, Chirpy, you never found out who the mole was during the game.
I didn't know who to pick.
Clearly, you
So-
voted for yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
With that out of the way, I think you guys would be interested to know in what exactly Matthew did.
Well,
Yeah,
I
Did
know what
everything
Matthew. I
silently.
As the mole, Matthew had a significant but challenging job to perform, and he quickly determined a playstyle for himself that he stuck with for the majority of the game. Now, being the mole, he did have several perks to help him with his goal, such as my cooperation as the host, and in fact, we were in constant communication for the entire game. He also often had foreknowledge of upcoming challenges, and occasionally suggestions were given on how to sabotage. However, for the most part, he was left to his own devices. Now, starting with the very first challenge, he had a plan in mind. He wanted to disguise his sabotage as general incompetence, which in the end worked perfectly. He answered his second question wrong, which had a chain reaction of causing his teammate Schnitty to fail the jump, and caused Illumina to fail his portion of the challenge too.
Including the source blocks, how many blocks would lava flow in a single direction in the overworld?
That's 5, including the source. I think it's 5.
Okay. And then last question is...
Oh, it isn't 5. It isn't. What is it?
I'm gonna hope that they know this. I'm gonna say yes, they got that right.
This chain reaction resulted in 9 points lost from just the first challenge. Now, coming into the second challenge, I suggested a way to sabotage based on a loophole I added in. At no point did I ever forbid editing a box's contents while a player was choosing one for themselves. But as April had already listed some of the items in each, Matthew didn't want to risk it. As the episode turned over to the quiz and execution, Matthew began to think about his alliance with April. They started an alliance before the episode even started, actually, while players were still being invited to the game. But neither side initially trusted the other. Matthew had actually thought that his biggest competition would be from April. However, neither of us were prepared for the surprising results from the first quiz. April, whom we all expected to do well, scored the second lowest, with only 2 out of 10 questions correct. The very last player to take their quiz, however, scored lower. Illumina never suspected Matthew for a moment, instead voting very heavily for MKZ for incorrectly answering the question, what company currently develops Minecraft?
Are you serious? Are they idiots? These people are really disappointing me, so I will say that.
For that, he was executed, as the first victim of the mole. Entering episode 2, Matthew was initially supposed to participate in and sabotage the hostage challenge, but due to scheduling conflicts, he was unable to join that one. So when the time came for the break into the vault challenge, Matthew was prepared to stop that one from being successful. Every time he tried to do something, however, he got stopped in one way or another. He tried to hit the wrong button, but Wizrobe was always watching, and at one point he even left the hideout entirely to try and accidentally trigger the motion sensors in the front yard. That too, however, didn't work out, and in the end the challenge was a complete success. In the end, it was Schnitty who was executed for having heavily suspected Chirpy for a lack of contribution during the hostage challenge. Episode 3 opened with one of the most heavily controversial challenges among the players. Little did anyone suspect, Matthew had completely sabotaged the entire thing. For the first section, he was relying on directions from Chirpy and April to guide him through the lava maze. Early on, however, he walked directly into the lava, blaming coordinate imprecision. He was still alive, but not long after he took another dip, this time fatal. Now the second portion he deemed too easy to win, and too hard to sabotage, and although he tried to miss an arrow every so often, this portion was won, earning 5 points for the team pot. The third section, however, involved him having to gather raw materials to craft a piston. Matthew, of course, had none of that, and instead tried as hard as he could to not follow the directions given, and wasted as much time as possible, resulting in complete failure.
X1Z9.
Spam left click too.
No. Right there. Right there. Turn. Turn.
It's,
Right there.
it's a block down.
Yeah, it's a block down.
Well, it's not like the floor.
Turn around 180. You're facing. It's at your back.
Lastly, it was a similar story for the fourth section, where he had to fight several zombies. And while it may have looked like Matthew was unable to fight back, he instead just chose not to, acting helpless while waiting for the zombies to kill him. All in all, Matthew had cost 13 points from the team pot this challenge. Although Matthew wasn't involved in any other challenges in episode 3, he spent the rest of it confusing people with the mole's temptation. Seeing as how the hints were supposed to come from him, he knew what everyone's hints were the entire time. There was some confusion over these hints. Players thought that they would get quiz scores from them. However, only Wizrope's hint mentioned quiz scores. Matthew, however, lied about this, and made up his own tidbit about quiz scores to confuse everyone else to his own benefit. In the end, however, Wizrope chose to drop out of the game, due to him not having enough time to participate. With episode 4 opening with a diamond hunting challenge, everyone thought that those would be prime pickings for the mole. However, Matthew didn't actually make a move until the final day of the hunt. So what exactly happened to those missing 3 diamonds anyway?
Where are you? I'll come help.
Which I need to make that email.
Email?
To my communications professor.
Oh, right. I completely forgot about that. You need to give me the paper. I'm curious about Matthew.
It's not good writing though. It's like every week we read a chapter of the textbook, and then we need to like give an anecdote on like what it reminds us of, right? And so like there was this one chapter, and it was on like trust and garbage. Oh, let me activate the beacon.
I have boats to build.
Okay. Shovel, 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 shovel.
Matthew had successfully destroyed all 3 remaining diamonds, even under the nose of April, who was searching for them with him. And speaking of April, an interesting development occurred. Somehow, Matthew had convinced April that he had written a paper for his communications college class about the mole. April had the idea of contacting the professor to acquire Matthew's paper, and in fact, she even managed to track him down. Matthew, however, had written no such paper, but was able to get to the support of his professor just in case, and managed to call April's bluff perfectly, casting a significant amount of suspicion off of himself. Next up was the Titanic Challenge. Now Matthew was actually given a world download of the Titanic Challenge for him to map out and memorize, complete with every item to find in it. Now at the time, during the challenge, nobody noticed, but Matthew was actually the only person to not find a single nether star on the ship, at least publicly. Secretly, however, he did find a star and conceal it. And now when the ship was sinking, Matthew also made no effort to actually escape the ship, opting instead to run around in circles until it was too late. Thus, this entire challenge, all 30 points, were lost due to Matthew's sabotage. So, MKZ, welcome to the quiz. Before we get started, I'd like to ask, anyone in particular that you suspect, and why?
At this point,
Or maybe Chirpy. Um, because I don't know who else would be, and she seems like a likely one for you to choose.
Entering episode 5, Matthew had an interesting task in the next challenge. During the Defend the Crystal challenge, Matthew was actually in constant communication with the ninja, telling him about the weak points and strategies the players were using. Despite all this information, however, the duo made some miscalculations which caused the challenge to be won. Immediately following that challenge was the Diary challenge, and Matthew had a list of all the correct answers for that challenge, and in fact originally vetoed some entries which he deemed too incriminating for himself. During the challenge, he also answered his second question wrong, costing the team 1 more point. And as for the quiz, Matthew gave Mike the -1 he earned during the showcase event because Mike had gotten a clue to Matthew's identity. In the end, Mike voted for April anyway due to her massive blunder in the Place the Beacon challenge. At the start of the 6th episode, Matthew was feeling the pressure. April had started to heavily suspect Matthew, getting 7 questions correct on the previous quiz. Fortunately for him, Bender proved to be a useful scapegoat in the coming challenges. In the 10 Keys challenge, Matthew had full knowledge of how to obtain all the keys. He let Chirpy climb the parkour wall by herself, knowing full well about the trap at the end, but distracting her by leaving her all by herself. Furthermore, while Bender was on the mirror floor section, Matthew gave deliberately confusing instructions, resulting in Bender walking the wrong direction and falling into lava.
The one, just one towards the right wall. My right.
He then finished the rest of the challenge with April to cast suspicion off of himself, having already cost the team 10 points. Immediately afterwards, the players did the dungeon challenge, and there, Matthew killed Bender in the second room, thus removing all chances of the challenge being partially won, costing another 10 points. Having done a lot of sabotage lately, Matthew wanted the Ways to Die challenge to be successful, but due to Bender and Chirpy's glaring mistakes, it was lost. Matthew, however, was able to use this to finally shift the suspicion off of himself. In the Ice Race challenge, Matthew was planning to successfully get to the end. However, a mistake on his part at the very end caused what was one of his very few accidental sabotages of the game. And lastly, in the Tundra challenge, after having already taken 30 points from the team pot this episode, he chose to help out the players to get at least one full victory, gaining the full 20 points. With executions for the episode around the corner, April and Chirpy were convinced that Bender was the mole. In a most intense execution of the game, April ended up getting only 1 point correct, getting executed after suspecting the true mole for nearly every episode prior. Finally, the final episode had arrived. Everyone whom ever made an alliance with Matthew had been executed, leaving just Bender and Chirpy around. With the first challenge, Matthew didn't actually know the correct answers for the other 2 players, but he took an educated guess and swayed Chirpy away from the correct answer in Bender's set of questions. What did Bender answer?
Matthew.
Really? I feel like it would be, my first thought was you.
Next up was the Underground Maze Challenge. The players had lost this by a mere 54 seconds, but in actuality, this was perhaps Matthew's greatest deception of the game. Matthew had actually solved the entire puzzle about 10 minutes into the whole game. Of course, he acted like he didn't know anything, and wasted as much time as possible.
So first of all, how do we open orange? You need to stand on the orange by the brown switch.
Am I doing that now?
I will look. Not open. Are you standing on it still? No.
I'm trying to. So what am I supposed to be doing here? Making my way to orange?
Stand on the orange concrete one. It's right by the
Okay,
brown
okay.
button.
Yeah. Sorry, that's gonna take me about 30 seconds.
I'm standing by what I presume is the gate.
Okay.
Are you on it?
Not quite there yet. Sorry, got a little bit lost.
As I regularly gave him updates on the time remaining, he was able to stall the players long enough to just barely run out of time moments before victory. When it came to the 5 buttons challenge, surprisingly, Matthew still had time to sabotage. Chirpy actually told Matthew what his buttons were before she told Bender. However, Matthew, as the mole, made no effort to hit his bonus button, costing the team 3 points a few moments later.
Yeah, I know what yours say. I can actually read
Okay.
yours. So the one closest to me says kill Matthew, then end game,
who?
middle is kill Chirpy, then there's your bonus button, the furthest one for me is kill Bender.
For the Cube of Survival challenge, Matthew dominated that game, dying repeatedly and gave poor advice which contributed in Chirpy and Bender losing the rounds too.
Oh, no, 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 I'm in trouble. Oh! Ah!
You're gonna kill us!
Mega bad, dude.
I have a hoe. What is the hoe even for?
Oh! Fuck.
That's a big oof.
Oh. Ah!
Oh god. Yeah.
No, yes I did.
I think this cobblestone right here, I think that this cobble, if you come to me, I think this is a safe spot from silverfish.
Matthew's final bit of faulty advice there caused everyone to later die in that very corner. In total, he caused 9 deaths, worth 3 points that challenge. Lastly, we come up to the final memory challenge. Matthew's goal here was simple. Having all the answers already, he tried his best to let the others guess incorrectly without offering correct alternatives.
I'm just gonna put these down, and now you can rearrange them as you see fit.
Alright.
I was just reading in Team Pot.
Yeah.
Are we sure that the first one was knowledge?
At one point, he even threw in a fake theme at Bender, which did confuse him, but shortly after, he panicked, thinking it was too obvious of a sabotage, so he claimed it as a joke.
But we have too many themes though.
Bender, I couldn't resist playing a little prank on you. Endurance I made up.
In total, they got 5 episode themes wrong, courtesy of Matthew. Finally, the 20 Clues Challenge, the last one in the game. There, Matthew carried the team to victory. As the final challenge, we wanted the group to end on a high note, so we tried as hard as possible to win the final 40 points for the team pot. In total, Matthew single-handedly kept 135 points out of the team pot in some of the most elusive and subtle sabotage possible.
Not even mentioning the second-hand sabotage.
What did I do?
You convinced me and Bender to throw
You kept
challenges.
135 points out of the team pot by yourself.
Yeah.
That was like, there was a significant amount. Did you not actually convince Bender to throw any challenges?
No, I had so much fun just blatantly lying to you, April.
Yeah, I don't remember being told to throw challenges.
Everything that Bender did was out of complete incompetence.
I'm like, how do you not read the sign? There's a sign there.
I don't think we're ever going to know.
What? You roll dice for the first 7 quizzes, and you can't read, and you win.
Roll a die for the first 6 quizzes.
By the time it was the final 3, I really felt that it would be the funniest possible outcome if Bender fan won. So I spent a lot of energy making sure that Chirpy thought I was the mole.
Don't you mean thought
Sorry, not
Bender
I,
was?
Bender. Yeah.
I like how he never actually did the lights thing for the mole or the runner-up.
No, that was a lie.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even need to throw in Bender's head. This thing would have responded to a button being thrown into it. Or a piece of rotten flesh.
So, any questions?
Well, I think we've got one final thing we need to. Everyone go back to the watch together link because there's more.
Oh no.
Oh, I closed it.
You shouldn't have done that.
Well, you
Because you see,
tell me to keep it
there was
open.
actually another way to figure out who the mole aside from just looking at the sound.
Oh yeah, the stupid clues thing.
Because
That
By
the
way-
TV series do.
By the way, I am of the opinion that all of Kevin's hints are bad.
I mean, I agree. if you were supposed to find them, then that'd be too easy. For the first clue, it was actually located within the questions of the first challenge of the first episode of the game. So here is a list of all the questions and answers for that challenge, divided up into their sets: the A set, the B set, the C set, and the D set. So if we just look at the answers for the first question of each set, so A1, B1, C1, and D1, and look at the letters for each answer. So instead of Notch and Jeb, we have N, O, T, C, H, J, E, and B. If we look at these and compare them to the letters used in the answers of all the other first questions of each set, so Microsoft and Mojang, compare those letters. For instance, there's no G in the first set of answers, so G is not a letter that they all have in common. Similarly, there's no M in Notch or Jeb, so we can remove M. If you compare those all the way down, C1 and D1, you'll see that there's only one letter that each set uses in common. And for the question 1, that would be J. J is the only letter that the first question of each 4 sets have in common. If you do the same for the second question of each set, you'll see that the only letter they have in common is O. And if you do that for the third letter, you'll see that the only letter they have in common is E. J-O-E. Joe. A significant part of the mole's username. Because the clue for episode 2 was on the quiz itself, actually.
Yeah.
Question 10 of the quiz. Who is the mole? You'll notice something a bit peculiar
I should have noticed that.
in this question.
Oh.
Matthew's
did no one
name
notice
is
this?
out of alphabetical order. And it would only be in alphabetical order if his name was Mole. Episode 3. This one.
Okay. Easy enough. Okay, I can do that.
Did you notice the hint?
No, I didn't.
No.
In case you noticed, there were 6 wooden doors, one of
What?
each wood types. All
Oh.
And where else has the term all wood
Okay.
been used? Back in episode
Fine.
RSG All Woods!
Fine.
RSG
Fine.
All
Matthew at
Woods.
the time had the RSG All Woods world record, and that
Wasn't
was
that
referenced
me?
in the secret shulker box back in episode 1.
That's
Diddy, your run abuses in-game time and still haunts me to this day.
It doesn't. No,
We
my
could-
world
we
record
could-
doesn't.
We could all be
The
happy.
one that I had.
We could all be happy with in-game time, but you had to do that.
Okay.
No, no, no. I didn't abuse it there though.
Alright.
Okay, the next one, the next clue was in episode 4 in the Titanic challenge. On the 3rd deck, the one April was on, there was a large stretch of hallway with many, many staterooms. Now, most of the rooms had some snow in this spot. If you look here, there's more snow. However, all the ones on this side of the hallway have a potted plant. Take the first letter of each plant, in this case S, and what do we have? We've got S, nothing, so we'll just leave that one blank. We've got a cactus, and I think you see where this is going. Another blank pot. Another spruce sapling. An oxeye daisy. Another blank pot. and so on and so forth. We have a fern. We have another spruce sapling. We have a jungle sapling. We have an orange tulip. And we have a blank pot. Put that together, and what do we get? If you fill in the blanks, there's only one person that this could be referring to. Sixen FS Joe. The mole. Now for episode 5, the hint, it was just the one that Mike was given. So I
don't even know what I didn't get it.
I'm gonna pull that up. This is the worst hint, for the record. I forgot.
And you give it to the one person who knows nothing about anyone.
The alphabetical order one is something that because that's a hint they used on the actual Mole TV show.
Yeah.
So if I had done my reading and paid attention to that, I would have noticed. But
a Mole TV show?
Yeah.
See, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, before this challenge started, I watched it all at 2x speed to get up to find out what Kevin would be drawing from.
Here
and then
we
I was
go.
the mole anyway. So
The hint was...
Yeah, I bet Matthew would have noticed that.
The hint was, the chase to glory and to fame, exposing all to rightful shame. The traitor sees, the victims play, the mole is not the soul betray. I will copy that in episode
What the hell
8.
am I supposed to do with that?
And I'll also explain what my rationale was. What does it mean? Chase to glory and fame. That means speed running.
Okay, sure.
Exposing all to rightful shame. Apparently, I wrote as myself in April's bad and shameful chess.
Alright. Makes sense.
The traitor sees. Matthew saw the ninja and is usually the most observant. The victims play. That part means nothing. The mole is not the soul betray. Matthew isn't the only cause of trouble. And that last line actually does mean something, because if Bender was the mole, then, well, Bender is pretty much the only cause of trouble at that time.
Why did you give that to me?
I gave it to whoever picked that. You just happened
Was
to pick
I?
that one.
I did? Oh, well, that's my
in the
fault.
showcase event.
Alright.
So, does everyone remember something at the start of episode 6?
No.
Nope.
What happened?
The mole had a bit of a taunt.
Yes, just as if it was yesterday.
The mole had a bit of a taunt.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. 5 people executed, 1 to go.
I did not endorse any of Kevin's poems, by the way.
You shouldn't forget, I'm the mole. I'm always right. And let's take a look at what happened in episode 6. All of the moles, everything where all the players were put in a line, Matthews was always on the right. So if you look at the start, Matthews' chest to putting items in.
He's also last alphabetically.
Here, Matthews is, well, yeah, but the others weren't in alphabetical order. In the dungeon challenge, Matthew was in the far rightmost room. And there's even extended to the execution ceremony, where Matthew sat on the far right side of the execution ceremony.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's
sure.
Oh, so
And
he's
there were
literally always
there were a few
right.
more instances where Matthew was always on the rightmost option for that episode.
He was bottommost on the quiz, Kevin.
Okay, listen here. And
He was the
lastly-
right answer, though, so...
Lastly, the hint for episode 7 was embedded in the 20 Clues challenge. Because in
Oh.
actuality, there were 21 clues.
Oh?
And this is significant, because 20 clues was not enough to spell out a message. I've copied the first line of each of the 21 clues. Notice anything? The first letter of each of the 21 clues spells out the very damning phrase, the mole is Sixen FS Joe.
Oh, I thought that was a list of instructions. And I was like, oh, if you do all of that, it tells you who the mole is? That's stupid.
No, look at the first letter of each of the 21 clues. But also, Also, Matthew actually, there were a few more things, because Matthew actually screwed up in episode 4. He was streaming, and actually, he
Did Ed
accidentally
reveal
showed his
it?
world folder, and in
Oh.
that world folder, if you were looking closely, you would have seen the Titanic challenge. He had the world for that.
Oh my
He
god.
deleted the VOD afterwards, but at the time, April and Bender were watching, but neither noticed.
Oh my god.
And furthermore, I actually had a Freudian slip in episode 6, in our first attempt of the 10 Keys challenge. Matthew immediately jumped into lava, and I said, "Wow." Something along the lines of, "Wow, you killed yourself already, Matthew." That was a Freudian slip. But I was able to use some excuses such as how Matthew's brother was sick to restart the challenge.
I
And
mean,
lastly,
it's pretty obvious that like you could just be making fun of Matthew for being stupid if he's a player.
I mean, yeah, but it was a Freudian slip. But lastly, there was one clue that was present in every single challenge of the episode, and in fact is present right now in this very room in Minecraft.
Oh, right, we're still playing Minecraft, aren't we?
If you'll notice, each of the execution halls were decorated in spruce wood, but also in 3 other colored materials.
Purple
carpet, black stained glass, and lime terracotta. If you look at the damage values for these colors, you'll get the numbers 15,
damage
5,
values?
and 10. What are the 15th, 5th, and 10th letters of the alphabet? J, O, and E.
Oh my god. Who has the time?
Kevin.
But in fact, there was one more clue to Matthew's secret identity. If you look at the first letter of the first word that I spoke during the intro of every episode, of all 7 episodes, you'll notice that it spells out the mole's name. Mole. Anyone trust in a time is halfway through the even with winner. Mole. Anyone trust time halfway even and winner. First letter spells out Matthew. And those were the clues pointing to Matthew as the...
What is the damage value?
So, with that...
A damage value is something that I would have known, but maybe others wouldn't.
I mean, I know them, but I wouldn't think to check that.
I've never heard that term in my life.
It's wool is all the same block under the hood, and it has a, and it was, yeah, and it has this thing called a damage value to tell the different colors of blocks apart from each other.
Right.
So if you play a lot of custom maps or do a lot of map making, you kind of know what number is what color. But if you don't do that, you wouldn't get it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like the world edit thing, the old world edit thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh shit, that's a damage value? I thought that was just like the color number. I don't fucking.
Why aren't they called damage values?
I think because the same value is also used for tool durability.
If something in Minecraft has a bad name, it's probably because the mod coder back guys got it wrong back when they didn't know what the code did.
So, with that out of the way, you guys want to know about your quiz scores?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I want to know how many people ever guessed that I was the mole over the entire thing. Like, how many the mole is Matthew answers did we get?
Well, I'll go
I think I did that at least once.
First, I'll just go through all of the quizzes in order. On the first quiz, Illumina got 1 out of 10. But Illumina was the last person to take the quiz, and we thought you were going to be executed for the longest time, April.
That would have been so sad.
You did horrible.
That would have been so disappointing.
But then Illumina came at the very end and saved you. But something else interesting happened on the first quiz.
Bender got 10 out of 10.
No, Chirpy got 9 out of 10.
Oh.
You got every question correct except the last one.
Which is who I thought the mole was.
You put
Of
you
course.
put April for that one.
Yeah, because I put April. I know for a fact that I put April.
You put April for that one, but on the one that's like
And
is
like
the mole...
next, I put her for like the first 3
But on the
episodes.
question on that quiz, is the mole male or female? You put male.
Well, yeah, you have to split your
Question.
answers.
I mean, fair.
Oh.
Yeah, you got 9 out of 10, and
That's how
and
Bender got
actually-
so far, because actually
until-
trying to answer questions regarding any particular person is a bad strategy.
Oh yeah, and actually, until Bender got 11 out of 20 on the last quiz, that was the highest quiz score ever gotten.
The 9?
Until Bender. Yeah. On
Wow.
the very first quiz by pure luck. On the second quiz, the infamous three-way tie between Schnitty, Matthew, and Wizrobe. But Matthew's score didn't really matter because he's the mole. He had a +1, and same with Wizrobe. You had a +1. So otherwise, you would have been executed, Wizrobe. That +1 saved you and made Schnitty be executed instead. Schnitty got 2, correct? And Schnitty was slightly slower. Unfortunately.
Who the fuck stole the Illumina? Or like...
Can we just get like a text?
Me. I totally didn't. No. What
Definitely
point
Schnitty.
was-
Also, let me free the rest of you plebeian.
Yay. Can we get like
Yeah.
just like a text dump of all of the quiz scores after this?
Yeah.
Cool.
And actually, starting on quiz 2, April, you scored the highest for like pretty much every quiz. You got
Until the
5
one I got eliminated in.
You got 5
I
on
should've
quiz
just
2.
kept splitting.
On quiz 3, on quiz 3, you got 6 correct, including the last one you voted Matthew for. And quiz 3 was actually interesting because if Wizrobe did not self-execute, Bender fan scored the lowest.
That would have really helped, you know.
That would have shaken up the entire game. Aside
Yeah.
from the part where so that exemption that you guys voted for Bender to have actually would have mattered. And instead, that would have meant Mike would have been executed. Because Mike and Bender actually would have tied. Well, actually, Bender had took the -1. Mike scored worse, but Mike went a lot faster. Bender got 2, but he had a -1.
Yeah.
So that is what happened in quiz 3. In quiz 4, April, you did your best yet. You got 7 out of 10.
Why?
Nice.
Matt, put it back. Why?
Actually, you might have gotten 8 out of 10. I think I did the math wrong. I think you got 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Why,
Okay.
Why are you wearing Wizrobe skin?
You did
It's
really
creepy,
well,
stop it.
April.
I am Wizrobe.
And Everett
Yes,
actually did pretty decently well. MKZ's lowest was a 3 out of 10. So that was actually, I mean, it was a
Aw.
weird quiz, if I recall. And
All
then
of them
came
were weird
quiz
quizzes.
number 5.
What about the fake
April's-
quiz?
Okay, well, the fake quiz. I think I thought I already shared the fake quiz results.
Oh, you probably did.
On the fake quiz, we had 9 votes for Bender, 4 for April, 6 for Mike, and 3 for both Chirpy and Matthew.
Okay.
Wait, what?
That was the fake quiz. The one that determined who had the special role for the,
A part of me is still pretty sure it's Bender. I don't know, guys.
What if it is
Yeah,
and
you're
Cameron's just been bamboozling us the entire time?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and
It's
anyway, on
totally-
quiz 5, Mike, you got 1. You clear last place. It was April had 7. Chirpy had 3 plus 1. Matthew got 1, but he doesn't matter. Mike had 2 minus 1, and Bender had. Now, quiz 6, April. I bet we'll be interested in this one.
I am very interested in this one because the
infamous
double tie. I tied with Matthew then.
Yeah, you of course tied with Matthew. So it was kind of pointless. The tie. Chirpy got 2, but she had a +1, and Bender did the best, getting 3 out of 15 by rolling a die.
If I had kept, I thought I was like, okay, it's the end of the game. If Matthew's not the mole, he's gonna be scoring well. One of the other two is probably doing okay, so I gotta commit. I can't keep splitting. No, if I'd kept splitting, I would have probably won the game. I could have kept splitting literally the entire time, all the way up to the last episode, and I would have won. Maybe. Depending on whether Bender got into the last one.
Actually, just one thing to point out on the 5th quiz. That -1 that you gave Mike, if you had given that -1 to Bender, Matthew, Bender would have been eliminated. Because Bender got 3, Mike got 2, but Bender was much slower.
Oopsie.
And then on
But
the
I
final
liked
quiz,
having Bender around.
yeah, and then on the final
Bender
quiz,
was very good for me.
on the final quiz, Bender actually actively went for Matthew. He figured Matthew was being too quiet, and he really didn't think it was Chirpy. All the sabotage that he had done made put all the suspicion from Chirpy onto him. So that's who Chirpy voted for. But Matthew didn't think, or rather, Bender didn't think it was Chirpy, so he voted for Matthew and won with 11 out of 20 questions.
I'm so mad that I lost because I thought you guys were competent. If I kept thinking you all were idiots, then I would have won.
What about all my amazing quiz-taking sessions with you, Kevin?
I want to hear about these.
Well, sometimes Matthew kind of memed. There was the time he tried to say spell swear words.
No, I succeeded. I spelled for the first question, which had options A, B, C, and D. I answered F, and then Kevin accepted it, and then I committed, and I said U for the next one. There was another one. There's another one where I declared that I was protesting. I forget what I did, but Captain got incredibly mad.
I don't actually remember what all you did.
I was just intentionally stalling for as long as I could or something.
Was that the one where you took like 6 minutes?
I had to decide.
Looks like the longest quiz goes to April in quiz 5 for taking 7 minutes.
How did I take 7 minutes?
You took 6 minutes and 58 seconds.
Was I like pouring through the chat logs to find stuff? Like what?
Probably.
I didn't realize I took that long on any of them.
Yeah. Fastest quiz was
also
fastest
me?
quiz was also April on the 2nd with under a minute. The only under a minute quiz, I think.
Really? Wow. How did I score on that one?
5.
Right.
Highest in that episode.
God, just the strategy of just choose things that had a lot of people doing them, ignore them all entirely would have won me the game.
It could have worked until the final episode.
Yeah, I think the final one. If Bender was still in, then I would have had to commit. If it weren't, but like Chirpy, if you commit to the wrong one, then splitting beats you. So.
Yeah.
If Chirpy was still on me, which.
You got completely duped by Matthew.
Yeah. Matthew's the only one who didn't betray my trust, which is weird because I never gave him any trust at all.
Secret.
And nobody noticed that everyone who ever made an alliance with Matthew got executed.
Except, well, okay, Bender didn't
never
actually.
made alliances with Matthew, and they're the ones who survived.
Am I the only one who ever made an alliance with him? I get. What
Everyone
about?
in Wizard's alliance that Wizard convinced that the 4 people who did the breaking.
Yeah, it was just impossible to sabotage that one.
Yeah,
I had no idea how to do that one safely. Like, all the fail conditions were like, oh, Matthew, actively, like, with conscious will, fail the challenge. I was on the wrong team to fail that challenge accidentally. Like, it was just so hard to fail it.
Well, I tried my hardest not to fail it, so that's probably...
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't actually think you sabotaged nearly as much.
Yeah, dude, when Kevin told me that it took him 6 hours to edit the video and it was 18 minutes long, I was like, oh, so the mole can't...
6 hours. It took me like 10 hours.
So the mole can't be Matthew, because if he did sabotage, all his sabotage was convincing me and Bender to screw up. He didn't actually do anything in the challenges. So you can't make a bunch of video out of that.
Matthew did a lot of very subtle sabotage.
Yeah, there was no incentive for me to openly sabotage ever.
Yeah, there you go.
I really did hope that you would do a bit more sabotage in the early episodes so that the executed complete.
Yeah, I just had no incentive to. Me as a player would have sabotaged about 10 times as much as I did as the mole.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, because he wouldn't have been
Like-
trying to hide it.
Exactly. Like,
And honestly,
like, being the
honestly,
mole-
knowing you, I should have used that as evidence that you are the mole and concluded it immediately.
No.
I think you did at one point, but you.
I
missed it.
definitely did, but I don't know. The mind games with like the double tie screwed me over. Oh wait, that was after the final
Yeah, that
quiz,
was
so I got. So that couldn't have done anything.
I enjoy that it's like, you know, April and like fucking Matthew were playing 4D chess against each other, and I was just sitting
And
there
I was
rolling
losing
dice.
the entire time.
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about Bender. You
And,
won. You might have rolled a die for a lot of it, but you still
Yeah,
won.
because
And
it's
in
a
the
better
end,
strategy
you
than
had to
committing to
pick-
the wrong person.
Yeah,
Can
you
I
were
just say something as well? Can I say something as well?
11 questions correctly. Yeah, what is it?
I am such a terrible liar that about the 3 times that someone asked me directly if I was the mole, I immediately went quiet and started stammering. Like, if you go back and watch that, it's terrible. Like, I
Yeah, at
actively,
the start of episode
there was a
7.
time when April asked me, Matthew, you're the mole, right? And I just muted. Like, I don't know. Like, if anyone had bothered to grill me, I would have been toast.
I should have tried grilling everyone at some point. That would have been a great idea.
Minecraft stall plays.
Yeah. So tell me better. How much of your sabotage or stuff was any of it on purpose?
No.
Not even just like freaking jumping during the. I am the mole.
No, that had nothing to do with it at all. I'm just an idiot.
Well, you still figured out in the end who. So.
Yeah, unfortunately when it came to the end, right, like, I really wished I could fool both of them. But it's very hard to turn 2 people against each other, you know? Like, it would have been very hard to convince Bender, vote for Chirpy, and convince Chirpy, vote for Bender.
Yeah, Chirpy.
But, like, that's what I had to manage, which is weird, because we were all doing the challenges together, always. And so, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Chirpy really did anything, to be fair, much sabotage-wise.
Yeah, so like, in the end, I went with, like, a general paranoia.
Anyway, with that, I believe that wraps up The Mole.
Season
Minecraft
1.
Marauder.
The Mole.
The Mole was Matthew. The winner was Bender.
See you again next season.
There will not be a next season.
I am hosting season 2. If anyone would like to join, DM me.